Hello and welcome to the Turf and Touchdowns podcast, episode number 13, which means that we are back to horse racing for this week. We're focusing in New York as well. We've not quite got Saratoga up and going yet. That is next week and something very much to look forward to. But Belmont at the Big A is where we're focusing for this week. And we're focusing on Grade 1 action as well. But we'll get into that in a moment. My name's Luke Elder. Joining me, as always, is my sidekick, Tom Collins.
I always wonder what you're going to say there, because sometimes it's a positive thing, sometimes it's a negative. I don't know if psychic has positive connotations. I'll take it. But I'm looking forward to getting into this show. Obviously, we've got a good race coming up. You want to be talking about what we saw last week, though, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, it means like you're the next in line. I would have possibly tried to keep it topical and go like, you're the Conservative Party who are sort of in charge at the moment, but it ain't going to be for long.
That's true.
By the time this podcast comes out, actually, that's going to be real down. But let's not go too far down the rabbit hole. Yes, let's talk about last week, which was about as annoying as the Conservative Party. The Stephen Foster Stakes. I saw a tweet, I think it was from Marcus Hirsch, that says, I've been working in this sport for years, applying my entire life towards it, and races like the Stephen Foster Stakes remind me that I have absolutely no idea what's going on in this sport. I just don't get what happened.
It was bemusing for numerous reasons. One, why did First Mission disappoint when he got the run of the race? Two, how has King's Barnes won? Three, what happened to Disarm? And four, that ride on Skippy Longstocking may have been one of the worst things we've seen all year. And I know Jose Ortiz follows me on Twitter. Hopefully he doesn't see this link because he probably won't be pleased. But what was he doing around the home turn? I don't understand. Surely, and I know you were with Skippy Longstocking, that was your selection in last week's podcast. Surely he was the best horse in the race and should have won, no?
By a mile. I mean, I texted you after the race and said, what was Jose Ortiz doing? And at this point, you had been watching like Disarm through the race, and you're like, wait, let me watch it back because I need to see it. And you text, I sent you a drone shot overhead, and it was like, the reply was not repeatable. But it's just... the first half of the race was brilliant from Jose Ortiz. Genuinely good race riding. Your horses bobbled coming out of the stalls. You're wider. You've managed to get to the front because for whatever reason, they're not going any sort of pace. It's the first time ever that King's Barnes hasn't gone forward. He's taken a lead. First Mission, I think the opening half or opening couple of furlongs about 24 and change, which for this grade is ridiculously slow. They are walking. I had bet just before the off, it was like 6-4 or something, First Mission and Skippy Longstocking both to finish in the first three. I'm feeling amazing about myself right now because of this, there is zero way neither of them can fade out of the three, or either of them can. First Mission just looked very slow. Skippy Longstocking, instead of kicking, Jose Ortiz decided to wait. He decided to let the faster horse in King's Barnes come outside him and quicken away from him before making any sort of effort. I don't understand what the goal was from the ride. King's Barnes came up beside him, and instead of kicking, he sort of took back and anticipated that he was going to be hampered. He was never hampered in any way. At grade 1 level, it really wasn't good enough.
No, I would agree with that. Obviously, the fact the horse re-rallied late in the day kind of highlighted the fact that he should have been better on the turn. I think if Skippy Longstocking kind of ran on at the one speed, we'd have probably been going, well, he shaped better than where he finished, but he wouldn't have won. However, the way he finished that race, considering the position, ground lost and then ground gained, suggests that he definitely should have been in the winner's circle. That being said, Jose Ortiz did have a very good meet at Churchill, so he just chucked in one clunker, obviously in one of the bigger races, but It is what it is. King's Barnes' dramatic improvement, whether that was due to different riding style, racing style, I'm not too sure, but I tipped this horse last time when he sent off an odds-on favourite and he got stuffed by Pyrenees after getting the dream trip. How has he reversed the form? It's bemusing to me. First Mission, he's a horse that I've said in the past is very good, but also is vulnerable, and he kind of proved that on Saturday. And Disarm just didn't really show up. I think maybe that injury last year has had longer-term effects for him. It was probably a bad selection for myself with him.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet Disarm next time, but I'd give him more of a chance just because things didn't really go to plan. Slow pace, where he was positioned in the contest. He just had no chance from an early stage. First Mission, I think he's just the archetypal really good grade 2 horse that is probably a little under Grade 1 company. He might be able to bluff one at some point, but I don't think he's quite up to Grade 1 grade racing. Even so, it was a very disappointing run from him in the Stephen Foster Stakes. But yeah, the Skippy Longstocking is very much one that got away from me, and I still don't get what's going on. But I'm not watching that replay back anymore, and that is growth, and that's how we go forward as people. Look, let's look forward to something that will hopefully be better in the Grade 1 Belmont Derby. We were anticipating quite a good race, and we were anticipating 10, 11, 12 runners in here. We've not got that. On the rundown, part of our chat is to talk about the Aidan O'Brien runners. The reason we say this is because literally the field came out at about 1:30 a.m. at our time in the UK last night. So we've had a look at the race overnight and this morning. No Aidan O'Brien runners, which is disappointing. Only 5 of them in total, Tom.
Yeah, really disappointing. I was expecting a much bigger field. I think there were 13 confirmed nominations. You had to nominate your horse for the race, basically like advanced entries for UK terminology, by June the 22nd. So there were 13 horses that were penciled down to run in this event. Now, obviously, after noms, you do get some scratchings, but I wasn't anticipating 8 of the 13 to come out, leaving us with just 5 runners. It would have been great if Aidan had a runner. He had 2 nominated, Cambridge being one. Can't remember which the other horse was, but they've both come out as well. So it's still a fascinating race, but we just don't have the quantity. We have some quality, though.
We do. We've got a horse that was on the Kentucky Derby Trail not too long ago in the form of Endlessly. We've got Legend of Time, the Charlie Appleby runner. William Buick is over in New York this weekend as well. We've got Chad Brown with White Palomino. So there are good horses to be looking at. Pace of the contest, who do you have on the front end early on? I'd assume White Palomino.
White Palomino will definitely go forward from gate 2. I think Trickery will probably lead from 4, just because the owner has 2 horses in the race. Endlessly is a deep closer. Trickery is very much an out-and-out galloper. So I think you've got to send him forward to try and make the speed. White Palomino will obviously push up. Legend of Time, more of a stalker in this race, alongside Endlessly, and Royal Majesty should be at the back. But my main concern here is that there's only 5 runners in a 1 mile, 1.5 furlong contest on the turf in New York. Now, when you get that, you always get a slow pace. So hopefully we don't get walking up front from Johnny V on Trickery. Hopefully there's some sort of contested gallop with White Palomino pushing forward. Otherwise, it could be a bit of a sprint finish, and that suits no one.
I'm going to bring up the English pronunciation versus American pronunciation here.
Go on.
Because I feel like America's going to be Tricari.
It better not be. It's Trickery. It's got to be Trickery. Surely.
This has got Tricari written all over it. Last time around, I must say that Trickery got the absolutely ideal trip. 2 starts ago, I should say, when winning a Grade 2 over at Churchill. It was a race that, to be honest, it kind of fell apart a little bit, and big priced runners dominated things. Laganos was in there as well, a horse who has run okay since, but he was never far away from the pace. You had to be there. It was a race that Legend of Time also ran in as well, and he just disappointed in a very big way, but we'll get to him in a moment. But I don't think that's overly going to be the case for John Velasquez's mount. We'll call him that. White Palomino should be towards the 4. We'll talk about Legend of Time, because he's a horse that we have spoke about and you've tipped successfully on this podcast so far. He's the most likely winner. I think we can both say that, but I think he's going to be just a short price, and it depends how low you want to go with him.
Yeah, exactly. He's drawn in gate 1, which presents a problem in its own right. Last time up in the Pennine Ridge, when he was successful, he was drawn in gate 2 and he stumbled at the start and then found himself in a bit of a troubling position. Fortunately for Joel Rosario, who rode him that day, he was able to extricate him from the gap, and literally the sea opened in front of him and Rosario just went straight through. It was the perfect kind of trip for him, despite the fact that he wasn't drawn well to get that trip. Now that he's in 1, William Buick's going to hope for the same. I don't know whether that's going to happen. It might do, but if they go slow up front, it develops into a sprint, you're going to have to ride your luck a little bit. William going over is a big positive. Obviously, I think he's better than Joel Rosario in general, and I'm sure most people do. He's got a 23% strike rate in the US in his career. Charlie Appleby's horses are still firing in the US, despite not being as good in the UK recently. So there are quite clearly some positives for Legend of Time, and that Pennine Ridge Stakes victory is probably the best piece of form on offer, at least recently. What price are you going to be? 5 to 4, maybe shorter than that.
I was thinking like 4 to 6.
4 to 6. I think he may open odds against, I have to say, just because this isn't a one-horse race. I might be wrong. He may be 4-6. But if you go back through the last two renewals of this event, the Belmont Derby, Charlie Appleby's had two horses with great chance, according to the market. Silver Knot back in 2022, and last year Nation's Pride. Nation's Pride finished second behind Farbridge and was beaten odds on. Silver Knot wasn't odds on, but he was still relatively well fancied in the market, and he was stuffed, finishing 5th or 6th. I can't remember exactly. This isn't a race that Charlie's done well in. He's never won it before. That, coupled with the fact that he's going to be a short price and is drawn inside, and they could go slow early, I want to look elsewhere. But I do agree with you. He is the most likely winner of the race on talent alone.
Counter your excellent point. Charlie Appleby's never had a runner in this race the way that Legend of Time's coming into this race, i.e. living in America. They've always been shipped over, and that's always been sort of the plan. I take on board what you say regarding it, but it's also a race that, I mean, Legend of Time, last time out, he beat White Palomino, he beat Royal Majesty. So we know that he can beat them, when, honestly, he didn't really get the run of things. You were sort of obviously on board him that day. Not literally, that was Joel Rosario, but you tipped him. You wanted him close to the pace. Joel took him back, sat last, off a pretty slow pace, it must be said. He came with a run as they turned out of the back straight, and he ran right into the back of, I can't remember who even it was. It might have even been White Palomino, but
Was,
the horse in front of him, he just ran right into the back of him, stopped all momentum, and he lost a couple of lengths. Then he quickened again. It was also the first time they put a hood on him as well. That he didn't have that a couple of starts ago. He had it last time around. I just think he's a horse that will take another step forward. I thought he was well on top at the line last time over. If he is 5-4, I think he's a bet. Last time around, he was 5-6 on the off. I don't see why he shouldn't be a little bit shorter than that personally. But as you say, there are horses in here that are more unknowns. Tricari, John Velasquez's mount is one of them, but Endlessly is the other, and he's fascinating. His best form has come on a synthetic surface to Peter so far, but he's a very talented horse.
Yeah, he really is. Last year, he was considered one of the leading 2-year-olds, and I actually thought he was the best 2-year-old on turf on the West Coast. He won a couple of races really nicely, tracking the speed and power and clear. This year, they moved him to the all-weather. He had a couple of starts on synthetics and was pretty impressive in both of them, winning the Jeff Ruby at Turfway and his Golden Gate victory, albeit that was against much weaker opposition. Then, for some unknown reason, they decided to send him on the Kentucky Derby Trail. A horse that's not bred for dirt, never run on dirt, ran on dirt in the Kentucky Derby. And actually, he didn't disgrace himself. I thought he ran pretty well to finish 9th that day. I like that they're moving him back to turf. I love that they've kept him fresh. And also, this is a point I think many people may overlook. I love that Umberto Rispoli is coming from the West Coast and coming over to New York just to ride him. Obviously, he could have stayed on the West Coast, picked up plenty of other rides. He could have ridden Trickery in this race. He usually is the rider for that horse. But he's decided to ride Endlessly after the break, now switching back in surface. I think he's got a great chance here. It depends what kind of trip he gets, but he's drawn outside, so Umberto will have the choice. And I think he's just going to track his stablemate, Trickery, through the race, whether that leads him into 3rd early or if that puts him in 5th. I still think he's capable of coming around the outside and producing a big leg burst to win. Plus, he should be a decent price. I don't know what price, but he should be a decent one. He'd be 2nd or 3rd favourite in this race behind Legend of Time. And if that's the case, then I'll bet him.
My order for market preference was Legend of Time, White Palomino, just because I don't think the market can resist a Chad Brown horse that's 3-time raced. Then Royal Majesty and Endlessly, they can fight it out, and then Tricari, the outsider of the field. I thought you might get 5s about Endlessly, something like that.
I would very much take that. I think he'll go off shorter. I might be able to get it to start with, to be fair, because a horse like this, I feel like the bookies are going to be a bit willing to take bets on. He's got quite a lot to prove switching surface now, but I think he's got so much upside, probably as much upside as any other horse in the race. I much prefer him to White Palomino. Much prefer him. Sure. Do I prefer him to Legend of Time? Probably not, but the price indicates he's going to be my play.
Yeah, I'd say my sort of play in this will be Legend of Time. It's price dependent on whether I actually back the horse, but I think he's the most likely winner. If you're sort of looking at more exotically, Royal Majesty or Endlessly, they were the two that I had fighting out for second. I don't know which way it will go. I think they're going to be pretty tight, sort of tightly bunched. late on in the piece, but I thought Legend of Time had it. I say my selection is Legend of Time. The effort last time around when things went wrong, I thought was very good. William Buick going over is a positive. I think William Buick is very tactically aware on turf over in the US. We've seen it time and time again, generally in California, but that's just been rather where the Breeders' Cup has been at that particular year. But I don't think he'll let things get away from him anyway. If he's held up last, that's fine. I expect him to make an early move and kick Legend of Time on. The trip's going to be a positive. I think he's a horse who's just getting better. He was one that I opposed last time around, but I'm not going to be against him this time. You are, though, jumping ship, Tom.
Yeah, I'm going to be with Endlessly. I think Legend of Time is likely to win, and if anyone's following you in, then I think you've got a great chance. But just from a price perspective, I'll take a shot on Endlessly. Just to touch on a couple of the others, we've already mentioned Trickery a little bit. He did get a dream trip in the American turf. The reason why he beat Legend of Time that day, Legend of Time wasn't acclimatized to the US way of racing. He was also way too keen. Trickery got an ideal trip and power clear. I don't think Trickery will stay this distance, so he's got to go forward, in my opinion. Big striding horse, galloper, not a quick nut, also not a stayer. I don't think they've got any other option, but he's going to be vulnerable in the final furlong, so he's a no for me. Royal Majesty is probably going to be last of 5 early on. We love this horse by Frankel. He's won a couple of times when we liked him. But again, he's been beaten by Legend of Time. He's probably going to have to come from behind Legend of Time, and I don't think he's got the capabilities of quickening past him and Endlessly. And White Palomino, where's the reason for being with him instead of Legend of Time? He was readily put in his place last time after getting a dream trip. Legend of Time bobbled at the start. I don't see how White Palomino can win. So for me, it's either you go with the favourite, Legend of Time, or you go with Endlessly. I'm going to go for the bigger price, you go for the shorter price, and one of us should be celebrating success next week.
You would like to think so. That's the plan anyway. That's a look then at the Belmont Derby. We're moving on quickly to the Belmont Oaks because we almost switched tack. We're not going to attack this race full on. We're just going to give it a mention because it's a very, very good race, Tom. But we almost switched to the Belmont Oaks. Plenty more in here. It's a very good race. We've got an Andrew Balding runner and also a Charlie Appleby runner, but I'm looking forward to the Belmont Oaks probably more than the Derby.
Yeah, it's a much better race. There's lots of depth in there, despite the fact that I think 2 horses will be strongly considered at the top of the market. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The reason why we're not covering it is because we have no morning line prices or prices themselves. So I think for a race like this, where we may have strong opinions, we kind of need to see the price for each horse going into it. I'm going to sit on the fence and just wait for that. But I know that there's a horse in here that you like.
Yeah, it is sort of price factored in. I'll go 3-1 or bigger about She Feels Pretty, which will be fantastic. I think is a really good bet. I think Andrew Balding's taking Secret Satire over. I don't think she's really going to take to America. She wants faster ground. That's fine. There are thunderstorms in the area in Aqueduct at times through the week, but I don't foresee sort of slower ground. It's going to be very hot weather-wise. Cinderella's Dream, I don't really know how to place her. She ran really well, I thought, in the 1,000 Guineas in the UK. I just think She Feels Pretty could be very, very good. She ran brilliantly at the Breeders' Cup last year, and then last time around, I thought she looked absolutely fantastic in a race that she should have dominated, yes, but she got a speed figure of 90. That's just about, I think, best or joint best in the field alongside dynamic pricing. But She Feels Pretty. Like I say, if she's 3-1 or bigger, I think she's absolutely a play. We'll see how the sort of race holds up because obviously that will change if horses come out or not. But She Feels Pretty, for me, will very much be a play in the Belmont Oaks. That's race 9 on the card. But that's a look at the American action anyway. Anything else you want to mention, Tom?
No, I'm in the Sky Sports Racing studio on Saturday, so anyone in the UK definitely tune in. If you're not watching England, which I will be in the studio, but yeah, ironically they're playing at the same time again as last Saturday. But yeah, so tune in. It's a good card at Belmont and the Big A, and obviously the meet ends this Sunday. So we kick on next week with Saratoga and 8 weeks of pure brilliance, where we'll be covering one race every single Saturday. Obviously, the podcast will be out before that on the Thursday or Friday. So definitely subscribe and make sure you don't miss out on all of that because Saratoga, I don't know about you, Luke, but it's my favourite meet all year.
100%, yeah. It can be difficult, and there are performances at Saratoga that come out of absolutely nowhere because horses love the track. But yeah, it's something very much to look forward to. That and Keeneland are the two sort of leading lights in the US. I'm working Saturday morning at Sky Sports Racing, so I'm going to avoid you. I might leave a present on the desk or something for you.
Is that going to be a nice present or
not an actual present? It just sounds like I'm going to like defecate on the desk or something.
Well, that's what I thought. Yeah,
Not
it's something you would do.
But I'm home in time for the England game.
Jealous.
Yeah. But I haven't booked the final off work.
Risky. How confident? No, hold on. Right. I know we're putting this podcast to an end, but I've got a point here. What do you mean you haven't put the final off work? Firstly, you don't even think England are going to progress on Saturday.
No, I don't. I think Switzerland will win.
You're a shambles.
Plug it. We're going to clip this. I think it's Switzerland at like nearly 3-1. I think they're a fantastic price. I think we've been dreadful. And I've given up on well, maybe we'll turn it round. We should have done that last time, and we got whooped by Slovakia for 94 minutes. But yeah, there you go. Football, you get everything on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. Turf, touchdowns, and
more turf, I guess.
well, yeah, I was going to try and get something T begins with T for football, but leave that in the comments below if you've got anything T for football. That would be great. We are on social media at Turf Touchdowns. We've gone viral, by the way, on TikTok. We are flying at Turf and Touchdowns over there. We will be uploading plenty more videos this week, and we are everywhere else at Turf and Touchdowns, but only on Twitter at Turf Touchdowns. I've decided Twitter, not X.
Yeah, good. I was kind of making that point last week. Now I'm very much in favour of you going for Twitter. X, just a poor name, sorry.
Perfect. Twitter at Turf Touchdowns. That is us. If you did like this, comment below, leave a like. That helps us out massively. If you subscribe as well, you'll be told about everything, including Snap Decision. We are just about to do a preview for the Breeders' Cup anti-post, our way too early selections at this stage. So stay tuned. That will be just after this. Until we speak to you in that podcast, stay safe, look after other. Goodbye.